All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Packers-Jaguars game. There were a lot of crazy endings on Sunday. This was one of them. The Packers winning 30-27, and unfortunately for them, Jordan Love did get hurt, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term injury. He may not play on Sunday against the Lions, which is unfortunate because that's a huge game that has huge implications for the NFC North. But there's still a chance he could play, but we'll keep an eye on that for the rest of the week. So, yeah, and then of course the Jaguars. I mean, they were coming into this game. They were 2-5. They have not had a good year, but this game was competitive. So to kind of go through it, a lot of punts to start off this game. And then Jordan Love ended up throwing an interception, and that was down in the red zone, trying to hit Romeo Doubs. It ended up getting intercepted. But then Trevor Lawrence ended up getting intercepted, trying to hit Christian Kirk, who's actually out for the year now. Broken collarbone, out for the year. Just comes back. Last year dealt with a season-ending injury. Now he has another season-ending injury. So that's just unfortunate news there. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence threw a pick, and that was to Xavier McKinney. And then the Packers, they went 3 plays, 28 yards. Josh Jacobs scores his first touchdown of the game from 3 yards out. Jaguars then punted. Packers went down the field. Jordan Love hit Tucker Kraft for a 67-yard pass play, and eventually Brandon McManus from 31 yards out kicked a field goal, and that made it 10-0. But then the Jaguars responded. Trevor Lawrence had a 6-yard run to score. So yeah, that made it 10-7. Packers then kicked another field goal, and that made it 13-7. That was a 38-yarder by McManus, and then the Jaguars were able to get a field goal. They had some big chunk plays, one to Parker Washington for 23 yards, and then Brian Thomas for 28 yards. And Cam Little from 39 yards out kicks a field goal. So yeah, it was 13-10 at the half. So yeah, competitive game. Both teams punted to open up the second half. The Jaguars actually took the lead at one point. They had a 10-play, 93-yard drive, and Trevor Lawrence connected with Brian Thomas Jr., who's been awesome this year, for a 14-yard touchdown. So that made it 17-13. Packers then answered. They went 8 plays, 80 yards, and Josh Jacobs from 38 yards out scored a touchdown. It was a nice touchdown run there. It looks like he's starting to get it going, which would be huge for the Packers. I mean, he's had a good year so far, but this was probably his best game of the season. So, and this by then, Malik Willis came into the game. So yeah, they were up 20-17. Then the Jaguars ended up fumbling. Trevor Lawrence ended up getting sacked and lost the ball. Packers were up by 10 in this game. Malik Willis connected with Tucker Kraft for a 3-yard touchdown. And yeah, they were up 10. But the Jaguars, they, came back. They kicked a field goal, 47-yarder, to make it 27-20. And then the Packers punted, and then the Jaguars went 8 plays, 87 yards down the field, and Lawrence connected with Evan Ingram for a 14-yard touchdown. It was a nice catch by Ingram, tight coverage. So that tied the game. And you thought maybe this game was going to go into overtime, but it did not happen. The Packers went 7 plays, 64 yards. He had a 51-yard reception by Jaden Reed. That set it up. They got all the way down inside the 10, and Brandon McManus kicked another game-winning field goal, a 24-yarder, and the Packers win. They improved to 6-2 on the season. Malik Willis went 4 for 5 for 56 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Jordan Love had under 200 yards passing, had an interception in the game. Josh Jacobs, 25 carries, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 23 rushing yards from Malik Willis. The Packers ran the ball for 170 yards. Tucker Kraft, 3 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. Romeo Doubs had 3 for 72. Jaden Reed, 2 for 55. Christian Watson, 4 for 39. Xavier McKinney, another interception for him. He's got 6 interceptions on the season. Packers defense only had 1 sack. For Trevor Lawrence, he was good. The interception and the fumble obviously were costly, but he went 21-32 for 308 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. They ran the ball for 91 yards. Tank Bigsby had 78 yards on the ground. Trevor Lawrence had the rushing touchdown. Brian Thomas Jr. Had 3 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown. Brenton Strange, he had 5 for 59. Christian Kirk, 2 for 59. The Jaguars defense had 1 sack, but yeah, they lose this one. But the big news is the fact that Jordan Love got hurt once again in this game. So yeah, he's dealing with the strained groin. Had an MRI. He's dealing with the strained groin. He's considered as day-to-day. He's going to receive treatment. There is a chance he does play, but there's also a chance that he doesn't play. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. And they got a big matchup coming up with the Lions on Sunday. And obviously Malik Willis has done a very nice job as the backup quarterback for the Packers when his name has been called upon. But, you know, they've went up against the Colts and the Titans. You know, I mean, the Colts are 4-4 right now. They're not a bad team, but that was a home game, and Anthony Richardson, the way he's been playing, you know, he had 3 picks in the game. So he hasn't really been asked to do much. And then, of course, the Titans are not good as well. Or they're not good. They have one of the worst records in the NFL. But even the Jaguars, coming in to play the Jaguars are not good. But when you now have to go up against the Lions, you know, the Packers are going to have to put together some kind of game plan if Malik Willis is the starter, a different kind of game plan, because they're not going to be able to just run the football. You know, they're going to have to put up points. And with Malik Willis, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that if he ends up starting against the Lions. I mean, a loss against the Lions, it's not the end of the world. The problem, though, is if you lose to the Lions, you know, your divisional record so far this year is 0-2. So I'm hoping that Jordan Love does end up playing, because I think that's, you know, if fans want to see the Packers and the Lions go at it. You know, so far the 2 games that we've gotten with the NFC North, they've been awesome. Both games. One of them, I know I keep bringing it up, but the Vikings, you know, they were up big. Packers had a late comeback, fell short, and then you had a back and forth between the Vikings and the Lions. So now we get the Packers and the Lions, and if we get Jordan Love playing, you know, what's going to happen in this game? You remember from last year, the Packers did lose in Lambeau on that Thursday night to the Lions, and then the Packers beat them on Thanksgiving later in the season. So they split last year, and I'm really excited to see what these teams do when they go up against each other. But I want to see Jordan Love play. You know, if we don't have Jordan Love, that takes a lot of the juice out of the matchup. So, and how about the Lions, though? I mean, they continue to roll. And we'll get to that game at some point. But, I mean, Jared Goff did not have a great day in terms of passing yards, but the Lions still put up 50 points. Jared Goff had 85 yards passing. 85! And the Lions put up 52 points. Look, we're going to get to my power rankings later in the show, but I'm going to say it once again. There are a lot of things that I've gotten wrong this year, and I will acknowledge it after the season. But, I mean, that Super Bowl prediction right now, it looks good. It looks good right now. Chiefs-Lions looks very good. So hopefully we get that. But, yeah, I mean, that's still way down the line. Don't want to, I mean, we're about to be in November. Halloween's coming up tomorrow. We're about to be in November. You know, we're in the second half of the year. And got to enjoy it while it lasts, because it just comes and goes. And, you know, it's happening right now in real time. So got to keep enjoying the season. It's been a good season so far. Though I wish we didn't have as many injuries as we've been having, but that's just football. So, but yeah, the Packers, they'll be taking on the Lions next week. And then as for the Jaguars, who are now 2-6 on the season, they will be taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. And they actually traded Cam Robinson. They traded him to the Vikings because the Vikings lost one of their starting tackles, Darisaw. They lost him for the season, so they had to do that. So, yeah, but they're 2-6. I'm curious to see if they end up moving Travis Etienne, if that ends up happening. Because Tank Bigsby, he's looked good this year. I mean, maybe if they get something good for him, they move off of him. I don't know. Etienne. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, just a very disappointing season for the Jaguars. Very disappointing. Originally, I had them going 8-9, and then I gave them an extra win. But they're 2-6. They're 2-6. Their remaining schedule. Take a look at it very quickly here. So they're 2-6 right now. You got the Eagles, then you got the Vikings, the Lions, the Texans, the Titans, the Jets, the Raiders, the Titans, the Colts. Against the Titans, maybe the Raiders are not very good, but the Eagles look like they're starting to hit their stride. Then you got the Vikings and the Lions. I might pencil those in as losses. Then you got the Texans coming out of the bye. Yeah, it's not looking good right now for the Jags. There's going to be a lot of changes after this year. And it's unfortunate because a couple of years ago, they got that playoff win against the Chargers, and you thought, Doug Peterson coming in, you thought this was going to be the beginning. And, after that collapse last year, it just seems like they have not recovered. And they're going to have to make some changes, and it's going to be between the general manager and the head coach. And they're going to be the guys that are going to be let go. But yeah, that's it's two teams going in very different directions. The Packers continue to find ways to win. Jaguars, they continue to lose. But it's not like they came back. They made this a game. It's just they fell short. They definitely have, like, in some of these losses, they have played better. Like, they lost a tough game to the Texans. They lose a tough game here. They showed some fight. It's just, they just continue to lose. So, but yeah, that's my thoughts on this game. Again, we'll keep an eye on Jordan Love, any updates that we may get. Hopefully he does play, because, that's going to be one of the best games of the weekend if he does play. But we'll see. But let me know what you guys think about this game. Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we will talk about the wild ending in Washington between the Bears and the Commanders. We'll get into all that when we return. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.